Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. I want to just go into a little flow with the guides and just talk a little bit about what I'm seeing synchronistically in my reality to share with everybody else. So much. First thing I want to invite everybody to do is just drop into your body. Take a deep breath in. And a nice letting go exhale. Maybe I'll do a little light language. I haven't done any light language for a while in these videos. Let's do a little bit of everything today. It's the new year. And we'll start with that. Everything here now all at once. All these bubbles of reality, right? Each of us is on our own individual bubble, and the collective bubble is all a shared bubble with individual experiences in between. And so a lot of us are, it's being of the world. What is it? Of the world, but not in it. We're really being challenged at times or called to really find our equilibrium, to find our, oh, that's a big play on words, to find our balance, to find our own resonance and harmony. And the guides are always like, look, it's just like when you get on an airplane. If there's a problem with the airplane, you're supposed to put your mask on before you put on the person next to you. Even if you want to save them, even if they're your child or your parent, or it doesn't matter. We are being called to really step up and be that change, but also take care of ourselves. There's a lot going on. I've been saying a lot of prayers for everyone. The Ho'oponopono. I've been saying prayers for just coming into a place of health and well-being and a sense of peace during these stressful times that a lot of people are experiencing. I'm a California native, born and raised, and even though I don't live there any longer, it's in my heart. My family's all there. My friends are there, right? So there's a lot going on there that people are suffering. Fires, fires, fires. It's also very symbolic, and I could go on and just make a video around that. I'm pretty sure somebody else has already done that. I'm being called to just give a highlight. So the highlight is I can't rush out there and put out the fires. I can't help the people who lost their homes. Just like North Carolina. North Carolina is still, it hasn't gone away. The people are still recovering. There's still homeless people, and they've kind of been forgotten about. So we're really being invited to do whatever we can within our own community, reach out to people who maybe, don't have anyone. Maybe somebody, is going through something. Maybe we can help buy somebody groceries. So we may not be able to help with the events that are going on in California or what happened in North Carolina or what's going on over in Ukraine, right? Or wherever, Africa. There's things going on all over the world that are difficult for people. But what we can do is help the people that are closest to us. Some of us have the ability to go to California and volunteer, to go to North Carolina, or like my friends did, they donated their trailer. Like, that's huge. My friend Kat, they gave them their second home, basically. They were like, here you go. This is our vacation. This is our staycation. We have this. We don't need it. This is for you. And that's huge. So if more of us did that, it would change the energy and the frequency like that. So we're being called to use prayer. For someone, I do energy work. I do intuitive and psychic readings, if you want to call it that. I can feel, not always, but I can feel other people's energy. And a lot of us can. All of us can, technically. But some of us are more sensitive and open than others. What we choose to do with that energy is up to us, number one. And number two, when I say that, I recognize in some cases that if you ever had energy healing or Reiki, you can feel it if you're sensitive. And you recognize what conduits we are. I have someone who will send me energy or send me a prayer, and I can feel it. I know that's what's happening. So, speaking from personal experience, it's real. So, a lot of times we're told, oh, that's a bunch of woo woo. Okay. If that's what you want to believe. Coming from the field and the awareness of being in the field and awareness, I feel when someone's got bad vibes or good vibes. And I'm not labeling it as bad or good. I'm just saying you can sense it, you can pick up on it. Therefore, the more of us that are sending out love and light and appreciation and gratitude in the Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. That kind of prayer where we're not just saying, please fix this or I ask for that. It's just being in a place of gratitude, being in a place of forgiveness, being in a place of acceptance. I am the light that I am. I see the light, me, this light within me, see the light within you. It's an energetic signature. It's a quality. It sends out a tone into this field of bubbles, and it pings off of each of those bubbles and has a ripple effect. And so for me, when I realized that I was having this connection with people, I had to actually allow myself to receive it. And in some cases, if I don't want it, I send it back. I don't want it. I don't receive it. I refuse. I say that because sometimes we ask for things and then we're so encased in our bubble with that membrane that we block it. Boing, it bounces right off of us. And then we ask, well, why am I not getting signs from the universe? How come I'm not able to fill in the blanks? Oftentimes, we're not allowing ourselves to fully receive, even though we're giving and we're sending out all this energy. We have to be receptive too. It's an exchange. I know I'm jumping all over the place, speaking of boing, boing, bounce, bounce, but it's all connected. And what I think many of us are recognizing is that we are being called to step up in whatever that looks like for each and every individual. We're feeling the desire to co-create together. We're feeling the desire to come out and say, how can I be of service? Rather than just pointing the finger and getting angry and playing the blame game. That's happening too. And I want to address that briefly. Many of you have watched I could go down the whole rabbit hole. I'm tempted to, but I'm not going to, about the California fires or anything else really. The bigger message is many of us know what is going on isn't right. However, what we're recognizing because of this recognition is we are the ones who have to be the change. It's time to stop relying on officials, people that we've put in charge, people that we've voted for. Clearly don't have our best interests in mind, even though, and not all of them, some of them really do, genuinely care. And that's why they're in a place of service. It's time to just go back and focus on, I'm going to show up. So the one thing I wanted to share is I had to look into, I'm not donating to these big conglomerates anymore. I don't think we can rely on a lot of them to truly show up for us. In some cases they do, and it's wonderful and they're helpful. But a lot of where the help is coming from is from the community, local churches, local organizations that are stepping up to the plate and saying, here, how can we be of service and give back to the community? So I've been donating to smaller local community groups so that I feel like it's having actually a bigger impact and a bigger effect than some of the bigger groups that are funneling a lot of those funds to other places that they have decided are more important than maybe what we think our money or resources are going to. The message around this on a broad sense is our value. Where are we placing our value? It's time to start evaluating and valuing our sense of who has our value at heart. And this is all a play on words: heart value, heart coherence. Coming into a place of grieving with one another, in essence, and then supporting one another, recognizing that we have to be the ones to make these changes in our community, to connect with people who are part of the solution, and stop just talking about the problems and, again, pointing fingers. That isn't going to build houses. That isn't going to help the homeless community. Sometimes throwing money at something doesn't really create the solution. It's just like going in and helping someone, let's say, do yard work that needed help, or going to the grocery store for someone who can't do it on their own. Again, I always say this because I'm hopeful that somebody will pick up this, and I'm guilty too. I'm just talking about it right now, but I'm not actually going out and building a community garden. But that isn't where I'm best utilized. Instead, I tend to do a lot of free sessions. I'll help someone who's going through a crisis. I will do energy work for someone who's in pain to try to help them kind of heal their bodies. That's what I have the capability of doing. I still do give gift cards randomly to people who look like they might just be having a bad day or need a little extra help because they may not have food. They might be struggling to pay for their groceries with change. So there's just these things. During the hurricane, my husband saw a woman, and I think I talked about this, and she was struggling to put the lids on her gas cans because she had lost power, and one of the tornadoes had hit her house or come by and knocked out their power. So he helped her fill up all of her gas cans, then followed her to her house and helped her unload all of them. And it turned out that her husband was 95 years old or something along those lines and couldn't help her at all. And she was 90, and they had nobody to help them. And it just took him paying attention and seeing that her hands were shaking and she could barely so it's us opening our eyes. It's us being aware of each other and not necessarily only paying attention to what's being shown to us on the television. Also recognizing the blame game. And that can be blaming the environment, the California thing. Oh, well, there wasn't a lot of rain. My family lives there. There was a lot of rain this year. Was it being utilized? Were the resources being properly allocated? Was there any proactivity? And boy, there's a lot. We could really go down that rabbit hole, but we're not going to. Bottom line is, if you live there and you can help, that's what it's all about. People are going to need clothes. They're going to need furniture. They're going to need, a place to stay, those kinds of things. Okay, so what else is coming through? That it's all symbolic. The fire itself is symbolic. We're in this rising phoenix right now, rising from the ashes. Along with a lot of these sad moments and our hearts going into a place of, what can I do? There's also this huge energy of, I can do. Here's what I can't do, but here's what I can do. And that's very empowering. And that's the other word that's been coming through, is empowerment, self-empowerment. So we're no longer saying, well, you're the one in charge, you do it. We're saying, well, you're clearly not doing it, so what do I need to do in a peaceful and organized way to make sure that we're picking up the slack? This comes from us taking accountability and responsibility in our momentum, in our growth, in our understanding of where we are headed as a collective and as a human being. in our ascension journey. So that's something else that's been coming up. The sun is coming in right now. So let me pause that just for a moment. Okay. So one of the other messages that's coming through was yin, and I want to talk about that for a moment. This was my own personal synchronicity, but I always recognize that oftentimes I get messages about myself because I'm experiencing that the collective is experiencing, and I'm going to play with that just for a moment. So I actually had, I pulled a card. Let me see if I can find the card, and this, I'll share this with everybody. So what I had was the yin card. So by the way, if you guys are looking for answers and synchronicities, I get synchronicities in everything, but I've practiced it for years and I didn't notice them my whole life. Well, I did, but I ignored them a lot. How many times have we done that? But what I would recommend doing, and I recommend this pretty much to everyone I work with, is get some cards, get some tarot cards, get some animal power cards. My favorite cards are Jamie Sam's The Sacred Path, or those are the ones I started with, and they were life-changing for me personally. Some people it's tarot cards. This card that I'm going to read from is the Wisdom Oracle deck by Colette, I think it's Colette Baron Reed. And the card that I had pulled was the yin card. And I found it interesting because I like to look at the pictures also. And I pull my own. So if I'm going to do a tarot reading for someone, which I don't do usually, but I've actually done sessions with tarot readers, people that do that for a living. And I read the cards very differently than they might. I see the pictures a certain way. And I use that for my own way of interpreting. Each of us has our own way of interpreting life, our circumstances, our environment. So I always encourage people, if you're looking, you feel like you're not getting any clues, nothing's helping, you don't see any synchronicities, get a book of cards and have fun with it. Get 5 different decks and see which ones call out to you, because at different times I use different decks. Sometimes I don't use any decks. Everything's talking to me. I don't need a card. But I like it because it kind of stirs the pot and gets things going. So for instance, I pulled this card, which was on my phone. It's just an electronic thing. I like the ones you can actually touch, but I was in a hurry, and this is the irony. And I pulled some animal cards, and I thought I'm going to mix it up and pull a couple animal cards and a couple of these other cards from the Wisdom deck. And don't you know, they match up. I've done this so many times, you guys. I'll have 5 different decks. I'll pull through from 3, and all 3 cards will have similar messages. And it's like, well, okay, that's the universal message that's trying to come through, because it speaks to us in and through all things. Have you ever had somebody come up and say words to you that you just heard on the television the night before, or vice versa? You hear something on the TV that you were just having a conversation about with somebody else. And I can hear the critics, which, by the way, if you're watching this, most likely you're not, but the critics and the cynics, oh, that's just because your phone is listening to you. Oh, that's just a coincidence. Okay. If you want to believe that, you can choose to believe that. I choose to believe in the magic that is all around me through all things. And because I believe that, I receive magic in all things. It's putting that out there in the universe. And that is not woo-woo. That's energetic. And it is, I can prove it by the synchronicities that show up for me over and over and over again. So in this particular case, I asked, what do I need to focus on? What are we experiencing right now? So it's for me and for the collective. And I had pulled the turtle card. Now the turtle card is grounding, getting connected to the earth, and slow down. Slow and steady wins the race, okay? The yin card is pink. It's got a cup and different faces on the cup sitting on stairs, and it's very ethereal. Let me see if I can, I might not be able to show it to you. Either way, I would look it up. It's called the Wisdom Oracle deck. And I just want to read a little bit right here. So basically, the feminine principle of receptivity. Oh, hilarious. I was just talking in the video a minute ago about being receptive. You guys, I did not put that together until just now. This is what I'm talking about. It's tying up those loose ends. It's connecting the dots, connecting the bubbles. So this is where we're at right now. Yin, the feminine principle of receptivity, letting someone else make the first move, gathering information, taking in cues, the art of conscious allowing. Now, I know that somebody out there is saying, well, how am I going to consciously allow but yet take action at the same time? It's an exchange. It's a give and take. It isn't always yin. You need the yang energy as well. Yang, however you pronounce it. And that has come up, but I'm going to keep going here. So part of what we're being called, and I especially am being called to explore, is that divine feminine principle. And what I hear when I say that is, I guess we will save the guides for maybe another video, but what I'm hearing as I say this is the divine femininity. It's a softness. It's a resonance of allowing. And when we come into that softened flow and we're not just all fire, right? We find the essence of balance, of truth. The true nature of things begins to reveal themselves because we're allowing them to do so. We're not pushing our agenda. We're allowing. We're growing from that space of allowance. This is the time of calculated receptivity as you gracefully await what is coming to you, ready to accept it when it appears. I want to just say, this doesn't mean we aren't consciously creating. We are allowing things to come into us that we've already been creating, right? We are always creating. But again, oftentimes we're so busy creating and looking for something that we don't just open up and say, oh, here it is. It's here now already. I just had to receive it. That even can be as small as receiving a compliment from someone. I don't receive compliments very well. I tend to deflect them. So thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to receive that. Boy, I could go so many places with that. So I would invite you to ask yourself, where am I deflecting? Where am I too fired up? Where can I find that inner softness of receptivity that I've been avoiding, that I've been pushing up against, that I've been running away from, right? And that becomes then emerge with that masculine fire. And I'm going to keep going. So I wanted to just share as I read this. Ready to accept it when it appears. Yin does not involve frozen dreams or even resting, but rather consciously allowing things to flow to you. Poised to receive the bounty that will be made available to you, it implies sensitivity as you alertly study the actions of others and contemplate how they will affect you and yours. Remember, you must make space for miracles to appear. Be the shaped, not the shaper. And that's a play on words. That we could go into that. You'll see how quickly your dreams manifest. It doesn't mean that you're letting someone else shape you. It means you're allowing yourself to move like seaweed. You're flowing with the water, right? You're allowing that feeling of, oh, okay, I might need to move slightly this way. Oh, look what's over there. It's using your intuition. Yin is intuitive. It's the feminine. And I'm going to play with this a little bit more. Now, I had said earlier in the video, we're not relying on other people who are leaders. We're relying on ourselves. This says, let others take the lead right now. However, I'm going to go into that a little bit. Your power lies in small gestures, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. So we can be the leaders. Now, this is what's ironic. This is just one card. So if I had just pulled yin, it might be that I need to take a step back and let what is that song? Jesus take the wheel. And yes, we should always be in that space of allowing our environment to connect and be receptive. But we are creative beings. We are manifestors. We are here to take action. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in a physical body. So the irony in this is the other card that I pulled was go the distance. So there's this balance that we have right now of softening and allowing while still creating at the same time. And it may not be that we're letting other people get in front of us or take the lead, but we are allowing them to step up, because in doing that, we are also allowing ourselves to step up. So we're taking a step back to observe, to feel, and to integrate, rather than all of us being that masculine energy. And there's nothing wrong with that fiery energy. We're all a balance of all those things. So we can't all be, what do they say, too many cooks in the kitchen? We work together, and this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, utilizing what our talents are, right? I might not take the lead and step up and start a gardening project when I am not interested in it, or know nothing about it, or don't have the space for it. But I might let somebody else do that and say, hey, how can I help? Let me participate with you. I'll bring some seeds, or show me this, teach me. Having said that, simultaneously, while I'm allowing them to take the lead, I'm going to do what I'm feeling like doing, that I can be of service of, and that is stepping up and being my own leader. Thinking of the Home Depot video, I asked myself. Home Depot. Okay, sorry, Jess and Candace and Kat will know what that is, but it's a really funny video if you haven't seen it. The Home Depot girl puts the lipstick on, and the dad asks, did you ask? And she's like, yeah, I asked myself. So it is about us stepping up to the plate. By yielding the reins, you will find yourself effortlessly moving closer to what you truly desire. Permit others to tell you who they are. You don't have to tell them who they are. Allow them to share with you and who they can be to you by allowing their actions to speak about them. And that was one of the other messages that had come through, which was actions speak louder than words. And we're witnessing this in what we're seeing in our political realm, right? There's a lot of talk, but then when something comes up, we see that it's empty. It's like when you go into a grocery store and there's a display of liquor boxes, and they have this beautiful display. Well, don't hit it too hard, because most likely a lot of those boxes are empty. And that's what we're saying, is it's kind of like the house of cards. It's like, look at this beautiful, thing that I'm talking about. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it's fluffy and everybody goes, oh, that's so nice. Yet the juice isn't there. It's empty, empty, empty. So we're starting to see these shells collapse. We're starting to see what's inside, which is, hello, hello. It's an echo of words that don't necessarily have actions behind the words. And so part of this message is about us being in that place of observation, letting other people run around in circles. And we recognize, because we're holding our center, we're tuning in with our feelings, our thoughts and emotions, and we're reacting accordingly, not reacting because of everybody else's thoughts and emotions and all of that fiery energy. And I'm not just referring to the fires. I'm saying this is symbolic of the phoenix rising out of the ashes right now, of what's happening in our collective experience. So it's not necessarily about pushing. It's about allowing, and allowing that energy to course through us so that we're guided to what decisions we want to make. We're not forcing our way in and going, oops, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that's so funny. It says yin is the sign of essence. We have to play with that, because I was actually using the word essence yesterday and I didn't realize, I didn't read this whole thing. Talks about abundance. We can't receive. A lot of people are asking for abundance, but then they're pushing in the direction that is actually blocking their abundance. It's also recognizing the abundance in the little things. And that's another thing about this message. The actions that we are taking go back to what I was saying earlier. It's the little things. It's opening the door for someone. It's calling a friend. It's maybe giving someone a little gift because nobody, they've been down. And those things make a big impact in the long run. It's a ripple effect in these bubbles. The other message that had come through, and we can't do this unless we stop moving and we're in stillness and we allow whatever's coming up to come up. We might be having fire and rage come up right now, but rather than burning us down because we're reacting to all of these emotions that are coming up, because yin is at the energy with that is darkness, the moon, right? And we've got a full moon coming. So I can see now the symbology that the guides are trying to get me to focus on. The full moon is a perfect time to stop and slow down so that we're not overcome by all of our emotions and then we react by, a flood or a fire. I'm using all these natural disasters or some unnatural disasters. We're being called to say, okay, this is happening. I need to take action by softening, allowing these emotions to come up. That's taking action. I'm not ignoring it. I'm not running away from it. I'm allowing myself to feel. I might be angry. This too shall pass. How can I constructively utilize this energy? And it might be just sitting down and having a good cry and telling a friend, you know what, I'm kind of in it right now. Sorry, I may not be able to be there for you. Can we postpone it, whatever it is, until next week? On the flip side, it might be getting out of that and saying, you know what, I'm in it right now, so are you. Let's go have lunch together and just take a moment and be present with each other. Maybe you can each have a good cry and give each other a hug. I'm using different, obviously, examples. The irony, you guys, is I pulled the yin card and I was thinking, okay, I better slow down. I don't want to get a speeding ticket because I had been going a little bit fast. I go, okay, universe, thank you. I will slow down. And then I rushed into the studio where I was going to do some sessions. And I flipped on the lights because I was going to look for something, didn't pay attention, right? Which isn't like me, and was running around because I'd had a cup and a half of coffee. And there was a session going on. Not quite yet, it hadn't started, so I don't feel too guilty about it. But they were preparing for a session, and I just turned on all the lights, and they had the lights off for a reason because they were trying to set the mood of a yin, kind of dark. And I said, I am so sorry. And the instructor, who's a yoga teacher, came up to me and she said, oh, no problem. What can I help you with? And because she could see I was rushing, so I clearly had not paid attention to my cards. And on her shirt, I kid you not, it said yins. Yinsy, maybe yins. I guess it's a Pittsburgh, like a saying. I guess I should, like, what are yins up to later? Something like that. So we were laughing about that. I said, you're never gonna guess what card I just pulled. And so anyways, that was the universe like, all right, now it's really in your face. Also, the shirt was black and yellow, and I've been getting a lot of references to the Don't Tread on Me sticker, which to me, if I'm going to read it like a tarot card, represents Kundalini energy. It represents the black and the yellow represents some Toltec energies. It represents a directional energy in Native American, and maybe I'll dive into that at another point. The coiled snake represents that Kundalini energy. When I read that, I know it represents freedom and some potential, some other things. But to me, it's like, hey, you've got Kundalini energy that's there. Don't mess it up. Don't step on it. Allow it to uncoil naturally. Recognize it that it's here. Pay attention. Slow down, because you're going to step on the snake if you're not slowing down and paying attention. Okay. And you don't want to hurt the snake, you don't want to hurt yourself, and you don't want to block that Kundalini energy from coming up. You guys, I'm sharing this with you as an inflow message about what the energies are sharing with us. This is a synchronistic reading, I could say, that I'm giving you guys for the collective from my perspective, but also for me personally. The bubble, right? Okay, lastly, I'm going to end on the other card that came through was go the distance. So again, coming back to turtle, right? Thinking about the turtle and the hare, the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise is the one that won the race. So it went the distance. It took its time, slowed down, was grounded, utilized that yin energy, get grounded, connect to the earth. Right? We can't be up here floating around in the ethers all the time. We're in a physical body for a reason. Also, the emotions that are coming up from a lot of us feeling helpless, feeling like we're, not whatever it might be. Those feminine energies, right, that are bubbling up for many of us, doesn't matter what sex you are, it's there as a balance, the yin and yang, the yin and yang, that black and white symbol of black and white, that line in the middle, the spirit and energy that moves through all things, the Kundalini. Anyways, I digress. But one of the messages is keep going. We're taking action by staying on track, by being in coherence, by not getting swept up in the flames of our transmutation, by not getting swept up in the floods of our emotions, by not getting pulled under by the weight. I'm thinking of the earthquakes, right? I mean, this is all symbolic. As within, so without. So we have all of those things going on. It isn't just one thing. And it's all connected. Okay, so these are like the basic messages. I know there's more references to yin, but one of the things that they talk about is the dark side. So I'm just thinking of Luke, I am your father. Although I know that because of the Mandela effect, it's something else, but from my memory, it's Luke, I am your father. That's a whole other video. We're going to pause. I'm going to just play with this for a second. Oh, I love this. Okay, so I'm on Wikipedia, and what my eyes were drawn to immediately when I look up yin, it goes into yin yang, yin and yang, however you want to pronounce it. I was taught yang in yoga. Other people say yang. But what I was shown is the notion, it talks about duality and the paradox, and I think this is key, of simultaneous unity and duality. And my friends and I were talking about this. It's like, can we see both sides and maintain our own integrity? And when I say integrity, that has to do with being pulled apart, like the integrity of a ship. If the ship loses its integrity, it's not going to be able to withstand the waves. And so that's my version of what that means for me. And it just talks about there's always shadow and light. And, part of this has to do with this duality that we're all witnessing and that we're all experiencing in ourselves. So now is the time to kind of find that balance. So I could look at this and read this. So if we're looking at this from a fearful reading, I go back, I pulled the yin card, it was slow down, the turtle, slow down. I immediately go into, I'm gonna get a speeding ticket. That's a perfect example of, okay, something bad is gonna happen, I'm being warned. Okay, but let's play with that for a moment, because that is an example of looking at the duality and feeling what's coming up from within me. And it says here that the standard Chinese pronunciation is usually the level first tone is yin, with the meaning shady or cloudy, shelter and shade. Sunny is always pronounced with the rising second tone as yang. So one is cloud, dark, one is light, sun. right? So we can read this as, listen, there's going to be some cloudy things coming up. The dark side of the moon, right? The stuff that we can't see. However, I also find it really relevant that it also means shelter. Sometimes we want the shade so that we have shelter. Okay, so other words that are coming up, and you guys play with this because you're gonna see your own things in your own life, maybe, if you're open and receptive to what this could mean for you. But also, what are we seeing in the collective? Female, passive, negative principle in nature. We'll play with that. This is all yin, by the way. Sexual organs. And it's not just the woman or the man. And I know there's the he's and she's and the hims and the thes. I don't follow all of that. And so you listen to your heart, whatever resonates with you. I'm just saying what I feel this is. And you can interpret it in many different ways. None of it's wrong from my perspective. So, covert, concealed, hidden. Again, I said sexual organs, male or female. Of the netherworld, north side of a hill, south bank of a river. And I just said the yellow and the black. I'll have to come back to that. Other words, I don't know what they mean. I'll have to look up. Sinister, treacherous, shaded orientation, right? What else? Oh, and when I said passive negative principle in nature, that's just like a negative charge. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. So you could read that and go, oh no, this is awful. Or we could say, look, this is amazing. All of this stuff is going to be revealed. It's coming up. All we have to do is come into a place of receptivity to see, feel, and know what is coming up, not only from within us, but from our system that we have been embedded within in our reality our whole life and beyond our lives in many lifetimes. This is where we are right now. So we're in this phase. And maybe this phase is this week in the moon. I think it's on and off. It's going to fluctuate back and forth, right? Balance. The shady side of a mountain versus yang, the sunny side of a mountain. Now, that's so relevant because the shady side of the mountain is important just as much as the sunny side of the mountain is important. Different things are going to grow on that side of the mountain versus the other side of the mountain. And you need both. And it's not separate. It's still all the same mountain. So I think that's really relevant to recognize also, not to try to avoid these things that are coming up or speed things up because it feels uncomfortable to sit, to settle, to allow these things to kind of transmute, if you will. Did I say transmutate earlier? Sometimes I make up my own words. All right, so I think I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to see if anything else stands out to me that's relevant for the collective. Oh, I love this. Okay, I do think this is relevant too. And again, I'm on Wikipedia, which I do like to use, and I know that it's got its issues just like everything else, but I find it really a good tool. So it talks about yin and yang bound together through parts of a mutual whole, right? All together. And this is actually part of metaphysics and philosophy is what they call it. They talk about the interaction of the two, heaven and earth, gives birth to human and therefore the 10,000 things. Yin and yang transform each other like an undertow in the ocean. Every advance is complemented by a retreat, and every rise transforms into a fall. Thus, a seed will sprout from the earth and grow upwards towards the sky, an intrinsically yang or yang movement. Then, when it reaches its full potential height, it will fall. The growth of the top seeks the light, while the roots grow in darkness. And I love that because the roots, you can't have the plant without the roots growing in the darkness. So if we can look at all of this as a growth period, actually, or a period of retreat while we are growing simultaneously, we can then soften our energy to where we're not in resistance to what we're witnessing and observing. We are still able to flow like the lotus flower, right? And be part of this world and co-create from that place of the divine feminine aspect, which is that soft inner womb, right? Like frequency that we are then creating from, that we are interpreting through. And I could go into so many different layers. I'm just in flow when I'm talking about this. And keep going. Now is not the time to burn out the candle at both ends. Taking care of our bodies is really important right now. Hydrating, drinking plenty of water. I'm going to end on this note, and then I'll go into a separate video with the guides in flow. So that'll be part 2. I'm hearing diversion tactics. Recognize that there's a lot of diversions out there. Pretty much everywhere you look, you can divert your attention and be pulled off track and feel more emotional, more upset, more anticipation, frustration, expectations. And all of these things are part of the human experience, but it comes back to us holding our own frequency in a balanced way so that we can work through these issues, these changes, these, I'm being called to play with that. Okay. Oh, isn't that funny? I used the word issues, which I didn't really want to use, but then I was called to look it up. And it says an exit. So we're working with these issues. Guess what that means? A final event, a going out, a way out, to gush, flow, pour forth. I'm on Edom Online. Oh, well, here we go. Boy, this is a really interesting offspring, children, outcome of an action, consequence, or result. And then later on, it turned into a problem. An issue is not a problem. It's flowing. It's a flowing of things forth, coming out. So what we're seeing are all of these issues coming out, and we're all in the middle of it, essentially. So anyways, I'm going to end on that note, and then I'll go into flow in a separate video, part 2. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that someone found this helpful. Again, as a recap, these are the energies we're experiencing now. These are some of the things that the guides are like, look, take stock in this, go within, hold your line. While you hold this frequency, you are creating, you are moving, even though it may not feel like it. You're just not getting swept up in that destructive energy that so many people are getting caught up in. In love and light. Namaste.